Okay, thanks. Yeah, hi everyone. This is session three of Lightroom Basics. This session three, we will shift over from photo and file management over to the editing. So without further ado, let me share my screen. We'll get going here. Hylos, and you weren't supposed to see that. Okay, good. Now I'm going to share. Yay! Is the is a big storage tank on the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Karen just joined us.
Hey, Karen.
Hello. I'm going to mute myself because we're about to eat dinner, but I'll be listening.
Okay. Uh, just to kind of get you guys going, what I wanted to do was just kind of kick off the evening, reminding everyone that in the handout I passed out at the end of last month, I know it seems like a year ago, but last month we were talking about uh, training resources. So let me drag this puppy over. Maybe I won't. Yeah, there we go. So just kind of remember, this is at the very back of the document I sent you last month, and I really recommend if you guys really want to get into what we're doing with photo and file management, and also more importantly with the editing. There are three great resources at kind of different levels. The first one is uh, Adobe's got some good stuff out there already. So if Janine was on this call and she was thinking about doing Lightroom for the web, there's a link down here for Lightroom for the web. Of course, we're interested in Lightroom Classic. So you just go there, you click on it, and you choose the one you want, and you walk through it. It's really a good, quick, basic, it doesn't touch all the bases, but it's really a nice one to kind of get going. And the second resource, this guy just absolutely has fun doing it. It's he just really covers the basics at a good pace, and it's really a good one. I thought it'd gone away because I watched this about 2 years ago, but his URL changed a little bit, but it should work fine with this guy. So that's the second resource, and um, Victoria Bampton is known as the Lightroom Queen, and I at first I thought, well, that's pretty hotty toddy, and it's just an English thing, I think, because she and her partner are English. You can tell by how they write and when they talk about stuff. But there's a lot of free stuff on her site that you can download. Um, what I did a couple of years ago, when we did this about 2 or 3 years ago, I went out to her site and you buy one of her books online and
Just a
you can
little.
download it. And that
Just a
gives you
little.
access to everything on the site. There is a great resource on there that she updates about once a year and keeps it updated with the interim updates about what's happening with Lightroom. It's really probably one of the best resources I've ever seen. Um, it's very well written, first of all, and secondly, it really gets down into the weeds when you want. Uh, Michael and Karen, what she also has is a thing called what does she call it? A fast start or a quick start, to where if you just want to cover the basics, she kind of drops all this detail and just gives you all the stuff that you need. And when you get to the end of it in the PDF, she'll tell you just to go ahead and jump to this other site. So that's pretty much what I wanted to kind of refresh everyone's memory about a resource that's out there. So One thing I would like to cover that we didn't talk about last time in photo management, I mean, we did a little bit. When you're in the library mode, if you notice, I've made the effort to go through my folders, and I tend to kind of rename them after the actual date. And the reason being is if I choose to go up to the very top of the folder and click on there, if you guys remember, if you hit the backslash, you get a text box and you can type a word. For example, if I wanted to type in Marietta, all the files that are in any folder that's named Marietta are going to pop up here. So there's quite a few field trips we've done with CPS there at the square. Yeah, Michael, you and Hylas, I know have been there with us through all this. So that's a good quick way of jumping and searching everything with a particular name. If I wanted to look for anything with our cat Alex, first of all, we have a family folder that the cat's in now. But as you find out in the last year and a half, Alex seems to have his own folder. So it's a good quick way of searching within the library.
Okay.
But we're talking about the develop module this evening, but I wanted to show you the power of all these names of the folder. When we go to the develop module, um, there's a thing called the breadcrumb bar down here. And at the very bottom, what it is, it's like a history of all the folders and all the places you've been within Lightroom. So if you look at this one, this is where I am right now. Up at there, I did the search on, and this one will take me down to the search folder, and so on and so on. So I can jump back and forth without having to scroll up and down the menu trying to figure out where I was. Every time that you exit out of Lightroom, it kind of resets itself. I mean, it doesn't really, but I mean, it's really a nice resource to kind of pick up wherever you are. Um, Before we begin talking about Lightroom, I'd take about 5 minutes and just cover a couple things uh, about develop. But the first thing I think everyone should kind of do is whenever they're in here into a folder they've imported images, is when you look at an image, kind of think about Lightroom. Ilos is still in all my hidden thunder here from you, but try and think what your story is about. And the example I give here is Hylos. Back here a couple of weeks ago, we were at the Parkinson's kicking back thing. And if I was trying to build a photo story about kicking back against Parkinson's, then I think keeping back with the full frame of the image where you've got the ambulance in the back is probably what you want to do. But if you're just thinking it's all about Hylos, then what you may want to do is consider just kind of zooming in a little bit so everyone thinks about it. Now, one thing on our next session next month, you're going to be surprised at the power of a new feature within Lightroom and Photoshop, which is the remove tool, and it's really pretty powerful. So that Coke can and that food container will be gone after we do a little bit of work in Lightroom and in Photoshop there. So that's what I just wanted to bring up with you there. Um, so when you're thinking about it, think about if you're going to tell a story. If you want to give your photos kind of a deep, rich look, you may want to strengthen back on your blacks just a little bit. If you want high key photos, then you may want to stretch into more of the highlights to make it a little bit softer white, so it's more white and like that. And so monochrome on the example here is. Um, it's real easy within Photoshop, but looking at this one, when we're out there at Hylos, I've forgotten the name. of that factory we went to in Birmingham?
Oh, now you ask hard questions.
Well, at that place we went to, they had the old textured stuff. I looked at this photograph, it didn't do anything for me. So I was looking at the checkered squares going up and the lines going across, and I realized that it would probably be a stronger photo if I went with monochrome or black and white, as the case may be. So this is one thing that you may want to consider as you're looking at images in the develop module. There's a great feature within Lightroom. It's called virtual copy. So all you do is when you're on the original image, if you want to look at how to work an image a little bit different, all you do is right click on it and you choose create a virtual copy. So it takes all the information that's in that photograph and it basically creates a layer on top of this other copy here to where you can modify it and it doesn't affect your original image at all. So you can have two, three, four different looks based off of the original image using these virtual copies. And they don't take up an awful lot of space at all. It's measured in the hundreds of kilobytes. They are very small. Um, if you're looking at high key, what you may want to consider is just looking at it and just taking your shadows and just push them up just a little bit higher and maybe your exposure as well. The problem is it's starting to blow out. You can see my markers over here. But if I typically, if I were to show this image, I would have been less on the white side and drawn it down just a little bit. But I'm just trying to give you ideas when you're looking at images. It's not always the right thing just to try and get it to where it looks color perfect. You have a lot of options to where you can stretch it a little bit. The other thing to consider about Lightroom, if you haven't done it yet, you can right click on the thumbnail and choose Edit in Photoshop because we all have those packages. We're paying the bucks for it for Lightroom and for Photoshop. So with this, you can jump into Photoshop, do an editing, and then Photoshop knows when it comes back down in Lightroom, it creates another copy up here of the file and brings it down. But on your Lightroom film strip, you'll see both files up there. I'll give you an example a little bit later on.
Pat, that was
Other
Sloss
things you
Furnace.
may want to consider is white balance. I'm sorry.
That was Sloss Furnace. In
Oh,
Birmingham,
okay.
Sloss
Hey,
Furnace.
Martin, how are you? Oh, Sloss. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't
They
believe
call it Sheffield furnaces. Uh, the Glover Machine Works sold them some locomotives from here in Marietta. At any rate, I'm here. I had bad connectivity and finally was able to thumb through it. So here I am.
Okay, sounds good, Martin. At the end of it, like I did before, I'll send you all the notes that we're doing here. So right now we're just talking about when you're taking a range of photos at an event, some of the options that you may want to consider in the develop module, whether it's monochrome, high key, low key, or monochrome. I mean, that's the way to go. But with Lightroom, please consider that Photoshop has a lot of power, especially in the filters, to where you can do motion blur, you can do uh, bunches of different filters up in Photoshop. And if you use Topaz or some of the other applications, when you do edit in, you can also elect to go there and use those tools to take your source image in Lightroom and work on it up there. And it always creates a copy. It never overwrites the original. So just one thing to consider. Uh, the looking at the right side over here, this is basically where a lot of the editing magic, as you know, takes place. And the one thing that I've read in a couple of books, and I think it's pretty much true for, I'd say 80% of what we do, is if you start at the top and just work down, that's probably not a bad workflow. But I really think all of you have, and me too, have pretty much know what we want to do in Lightroom, and we just kind of know how to click and make it work. So just one thing to consider. The one thing I wanted to show you here right away in the histogram, there's a couple of neat things that happen. I must have used Lightroom for almost 10 years before I realized one day, whenever I cursor over the image with my cursor over here, if you notice back in the histogram, it tells me I shot this on my iPhone at ISO 80, and I can't read it. I think it's 1.8 at 1/160th of a second. So, and the reason this is important to me is I'm starting to shoot a lot more at higher ISOs. So whenever I'm shooting an image, I'd like to know what the ISO is so that I can consider if I need to run denoise on it or some other applications that I have to kind of clean it up just a little bit. But I wanted to let you know that image, there it is right there. I never knew it was there. I was always going up and clicking on info so I could see where it was up at the top there. I find this way an awful lot easier. For the most part, we're going to skip over it's called the tool strip for right now. We'll go into it, but I'm really trying to focus on everything else for this evening so that when we finish up with our last section next month, we'll spend our time almost entirely in this module. But we'll spend about a quarter of our time here this evening. Um, this is the basic panel here. You guys know it. But the one thing I want to show it to you, how many times have you been, let's say that you're working on the masking module and you click on it, then of course you can see all your layers here that you're working on. But you come down here and you start say, oh, okay, I want to start fooling with my whites. And then you find out nothing is really happening. Well, the first thing is when you're in the module, if you notice, there's a color break between the tool strip, items, not necessarily with the mask, but the other items will kind of up with a darker background rather than the rest of it. So if you're in using the tool strip or the basic module and you're moving your sliders and nothing's happening, it's because up at the very top uh, of the basic panel, let me kind of get back here. At the top of the basic panel, this affects everything on the screen. When you use anything in the tool strip, it's very specialized based on what you're masking, or if you're using the stamp tool, or you're using the healing brush, whatever, you're only talking to that thing. So if you're sliding your sliders and nothing's happening, just stand back, take a deep breath, and realize that up at the very top, the exposure is duplicated again, but that's where it is that you need to do the magic. You can't use these sliders when you're actually in the tool strip here. So just trying to save you from crying in your beer when that does happen. So what they're saying here is the basic module, if you just kind of work down, it's probably a good workflow to kind of work. And then, of course, from here, you would kind of specialize a little bit. So what I've seen a lot of folks recommend is on your workflow to always start with white balance. And a great tool, oh, I'm sorry, one last thing before we go there. Um, in the image, if you notice, if you move your cursor over it, you'll see, can you see right there? It says blacks right down here. Whenever I hold that quadrant, and then that says shadows. Again, it's right here. And then exposure, and it goes on to highlights and whites. Well, guess what? Whenever I move my blacks, look down the screen, down here where the sliders are down here, and watch what happens. See how these guys are basically reflecting the same information back and forth? So I just wanted to let you know you can actually play around with your image up here if you like, rather than using the slider bars down here. So all five of these are reflected. There's five zones up here: the exposure, highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. There's five areas up here. If you move your stuff this way and that way, it affects it as if it will do it. So luckily, we all know the undo key, and that is control what, guys?
Z.
Z.
There you go. Last letter of the alphabet will just take you right back and undo your last action. But the one thing in Lightroom, I think there's a couple actually, but the one thing it's going to bite you, that's bitten me a couple of times, is whenever you delete a photo in Lightroom and then you get the prompt, do you want to uh, delete it only in Lightroom or on the file system? I always choose the file system because I don't want this stuff to be there if I've said I don't want it. But once you delete a file in Windows, you cannot press Control Z and bring that image back in to Lightroom. You've got to go out to your wastebasket and then look in your wastebasket and figure out which file number you were working on, then right click and restore it. And then you have to do a file import and bring it back into Lightroom. So if you guys have a problem, just email me. I can talk you through it. I just don't want to take the time here to kind of talk about it. But that's the only thing that basically Control Z doesn't work very well. One thing, Scott Kelby years ago, Hilos uses them. I did until last year. I wanted to take a break from the paying the subscription. But one thing that he mentioned that I thought was pretty good. Let's say that you're working on an image, and I'll pick this one right here, and you're not really sure how to get started. Just go and click on the auto button. It may be just kind of good enough that it kind of gives you a head start and kind of works it for you. In this case, it did not, but it's if you click on the image and kind of work it. So let's say, for example, I was working, I think these have already been worked. So yeah, see, so if I hit auto, if you notice, it changed it to where it actually looks a little bit better. I wish I'd thought of that when I did it. But it's a great way to kind of get started if you're kind of struggling how to move and do whatever you want. And that's the auto key right here. All the changes are reflected on your slider bar, and it does not affect your sharpening at all. So it's only working with the tones of your basic area right here. Uh, if you notice, Lightroom has a boatload of these panels over here. And if you're like me and you've got a couple open, you've got a long way to scroll up and down. If you don't care for that, if you right click on any of these panels, you'll get an option called solo mode. And what solo mode does is whichever one you're clicking on, that's the one that's open. So if I turn this off and I go to basic, if you notice, the one for the tone curve will stay open if you click on calibration. So after a while, this gets to be kind of going like that. I'm not recommending that you guys automatically switch to solo. I'm just letting you know it's an option there. And another option that you may want to consider on the panels is to go down to customize the develop panel. Um, these are all the panels that you have right now. You can hide them from view. I choose not to do that. But what I've done is I've moved all the ones that I don't use the most down to the bottom. All you do is click on it and you just physically move it down to wherever that you want it to go. So so you can kind of move the stuff again, however you want to kind of move it. Me, I like to keep the color mixer fairly close to the top. And Lensboard, you'll see why you may want to keep that one close too. I'm going to cancel all this because I moved one that wasn't quite right. And it just kind of helps you instead of spending a lot of time going up and down. It's a great way to kind of work on it. Um, One thing, if you notice the last two sessions, we were in the library all the time, but we kept coming back to the develop module. You can go up here and click on the word develop or library if you like, or you can use the three-letter acronym GED. For those of you in the military, you may have had some buddies in your unit who got their general education diploma or GED while they were in the service. So the G and the E. So if you notice, I'm in the develop module. If you hit G, it goes to the grid view. If you hit E, don't ask me why, because the letter L was already used up. If you hit the letter E, that sends you in the loop view, which is one image. So one image is loop, G is grid. And if you want to jump back to the develop module, you just press the letter D as in Delta again. It pops you right back. I find that that's a lot quicker than scooting my mouse up here every time I want to go back and forth. And again, like I showed you earlier, the this breadcrumb bar is really, really handy if you're going back and forth in different folders in your develop, or you're going back to your collections as well. Okay, let me get in that one. Okay, good. So that kind of what I'd like to do is quickly run through it, and I'll just stop and ask if anyone has any question about the panels. And then I'd like to spend about the last 20, 30 minutes of however long we're going to be here, just to look at real images and give you some ideas of how you can work on it. And again, everything we're going to do here, Hylos is going to record it, and I'll go back and add it as steps that you can kind of consider when you're working your image. And I guarantee there's a couple things you've never seen before that we're going to cover this evening. So I'm going to start over on the left side, and that would be the navigator. Uh, each of these options has what we call a spinner. So if you click on that little triangle, you can spin it open or closed if you want. For years, I used Lightroom without the navigator, and I've just found a good use for it. If I want to zoom into a part of the image, I just click on the navigator. You notice how it just zoomed right into Hylos's neck right here. And you can still kind of move around it. Now, let's say I want to count how many hairs Hylos has on his eyebrow. You can click on this one, and it gives you the option of zooming in even further. So I don't know how many angels are on the tip of a pinhead or how many hairs are there, Hylos, but just let you know that that's a quick way to kind of zoom in and out. And this is sticky. So if you want to go back to the 100% view, so whenever you click on an image to go in and out, see how I'm just left clicking to go in and out. You can change how much you want to go in right here, or you don't. Okay, so Navigator, if you have more than, let's say down here, if you notice, I'm going to have 3 photos selected in the thumbnail. Uh, whatever, whichever photo you click on or mouse over will actually show up in the navigator up there. And it also works really wherever you are, but you have to physically click on the image to kind of get it to kind of go up there as you cursor over things. So that's how you can get that view. There's really no advantage to making this thing go a little bit wider and to get a wider image here. It's just not worth it because really all the visual real estate you're trying to keep is right here. In fact, on the thumbnails, I typically keep this down a little bit shorter because I already know what's down there. Okay, this is very, very cool. How many of you guys have not used presets before? Or how many of you have?
No.
Presets are wonderful. I'm going to click and go to one of my other folders. I'm just picking one at random here. Uh, this is Joy's stuff when she was doing photos. Uh, there are presets down here. You can add, you can right click on a preset and save it, and it goes to the very top of the presets because Adobe has given you a boatload of presets. I mean, there's presets to do almost everything right here. So starting from medium and deep design, and the cool thing is, whenever you kind of cursor over a preset, are you seeing up in the navigator window, you can actually see what it may look like if you were to click on that one. So if I click on deep skin, it shows what it looks like here, and then it brings it over. But I don't want to click on that. And I use Control Z to get out of it. But what you can do if you're not happy with all this stuff, um, what you may want to do on your mouse, if you have a wheel at the top, whenever you click within a panel, you can roll the wheel and it typically moves you up and down. So you don't have to go over here to this scroll bar and kind of get to where you want to go. So up until about 6 months ago, if you wanted to do any of this stuff, I had a lot of fun with black and whites. I especially like number 06. That has a nice feel for me. But wait, there's more. Whenever you click on a preset, this was added within the last 6 or 9 months, you can adjust how much of that preset will actually take effect. So you can add much more to the effect, or you can take away from it, which I find very, very handy whenever I bring an image in to kind of fine tune it. You can always go back to the other side and use your slider bars back and forth to do it. But this is kind of a nice way to kind of go back and forth. I don't know if Karen's still leading. Hey Jeff, how you doing?
Hey, doing all right. Hey, everybody.
Good. You doing okay?
Yep, doing okay.
Oh, super. Glad to hear it. Uh, so here is something. They just added this the last 6 or 9 months. And if you go there, you notice there's a term here that says adaptive in front of about 4 or 5 of the presets. The advantage of this one is, remember back in the other presets, you had to go through and mark whatever you wanted the preset to kind of work on. With the adaptive, it goes out and it figures what you want to do. So let's say, for example, we have let me go to a portrait. Oh, okay. So here's one of Rob, and I'm going to the adaptive portrait. If I want to enhance it or make it a gritty portrait, all I do is click on it. And if you notice, Lightroom is going out and it's saying, okay, I'm going to go out and find where the subject is for you automatically. You do not have to pick it in advance and then run the older presets. So what this did is it just went through and it added a little bit of a grit to the look. So I'm going to press Control Z, and that's how it looked before. So you can go through, obviously I'm not going to use uh, a preset of hair on Rob. So whatever. So I just want to let you know that these adaptives are right here. Let me see if I can find one that's got a background. There, we all have white backgrounds, I think. Jeff, there you are. Uh, It's okay. We've got a couple examples I'm going to show you this evening. But the adaptive presets mean what it does is whenever you add a preset from within that adaptive range in that group, it will automatically go out and do some selection for you before. And again, with the older presets, you had to go through and do the mask first and then say, here's my subject. And then you'd run the preset and then it would do yada yada on it. Now you don't have to do it. And that is wonderful. I went through and I created a preset here. Uh, I called it Eyes, Teeth, Pop, Blur, and White. So what I did was, so if I can just take, let's say, where's Jeff again? So Jeff is right here. So there's Jeff. So let's say I want to go through and I want to build a preset that will automatically run on this stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down there and I'm going to click on, let's say, enhance a portrait. What this does is it basically softens the face a little bit, lightens the eyes and teeth, and generally it just makes it look just a little bit better. There's also another option down here called Pop right here. And what it does, it's going to take just watch what happens when I click on the image of Jeff. You probably didn't see it, but it lightened it just a little bit. And I find out that is really handy. So if I wanted to, I could make the effect even more so. If you notice, it's only working on Jeff, not the background, and make it. So I'm looking at creating a preset. So that's one of the other stops. The other thing I do is sharpen. So I'm going to go over here to the texture and I'm just going to bump it up to about 12. And then all you do is you just go up to the top and see where it's got a little plus sign. All I do is click on it and I create a preset. And then what I'm going to do is what I typically do is I put my initial in front of it. Joy hasn't started yet using it, so I wanted to make sure we kept ours separate. But I used the pop preset. I also used the enhance portrait. I'm just going to abbreviate that. And I also did a little bit of sharpen. And it asks you here what you want to do. I'm going to click on masking so everything is selected. And I wanted to support the amount slider. And all I do is hit create. So if you notice right here, there's the one that we use for Jeff. So let's go over to Margaret. And I'm going to go to Margaret's and I'm going to drop her exposure just a little bit where she looks kind of dark. And I'm going to use the one that we just built for Jeff. So all you do is click on it. So what the AI doing, it's going out, it's finding where the subject is, and then it's going to pop it. Is that magic or what? So I went through it, it sharpened it, it gave a little bit of pop, meaning it added a little bit of exposure to the magic, and it kind of softened her eyes just a little bit. And it also sharpened her teeth, not sharpened, but whitened her teeth just a little bit. So again, in your post notes, I'll explain all this in there for you. So Jeff, how's it feel to be a rock star for about 15 minutes with your own preset?
Oh yeah, great. I'm waiting on the royalties.
It really is good. The only thing I recommend that you guys do is if you have the current versions of Lightroom and you have the adaptive, use those because it automatically goes out and it finds what it needs. In other words, there's an adaptive for the sky. So guess what it does first? It goes out and it finds the sky and then it does whatever you want it to do. So it's really kind of handy. So all you do is you just start.
Matt,
Yeah. Yeah, Karen.
what do you mean by it goes out and finds?
So, for example, in
When
this
you
one
say it
that we
goes
just
out and
ran on
finds
Margaret,
the sky,
here's what it did,
where's
Karen.
it going?
Say again.
You say it goes out and finds the sky. What do you mean it goes out? Where does it go?
On the image that you have picked. So it goes out, if you click on an adaptive sky preset, it'll go out and find the sky for you. You don't have to go and click on uh, masking, select, and do all that. It does it all for you.
Well, it doesn't go out of the application. It goes to the photo and finds the sky. It's not going out of the program.
Yeah, okay.
Semantics.
Yeah. If you look here, this is what the preset did for us. If you notice, it created a mask for Margaret's face. It lightened it. Lightened. If you look at her eyes are a little bit red. It lightened her eyes, and there's the sclera in her eyes, the iris. It lightened that, and I'm not sure what that one did. Oh, there's her teeth. So it built all these uh, and it ran the algorithm on it to lighten it up just a little bit. So it's really kind of handy. And it also went through and it softened her skin just a little bit. And again, that's if you use the adaptive preset. Karen, was that explained a little bit better? So when you
Yeah,
do
somewhat. So if you choose an adaptive, then
yeah. So
over
I'll
there on the right side where your cursor is,
yeah. So it's
that,
doing all
that
that
shows
work
you
for
what
you.
it did.
Yeah, let me see if I find another one. Let's see if I find something with the sky at Gibbs Gardens. What? There's no sky? I swear to God, I don't have one of a sky.
So is it basically evaluating the image
Yes.
and then looking at the various adjustments it can make and determining where it can apply those and then applies them?
Yeah. So when you use an adaptive portrait, guess which masking it uses? It uses the select subject. When you use the adaptive for the, let me close that up. When you use the sky, like right there, Karen, see where it says sky? It gives you all these different choices of how it's going to flavor the sky for you. Um, I can't believe I don't have any sky stuff. Okay, here's one. So Rob and I went out. We stopped by. We are doing tulips, and I'm looking here, and I want to add a little bit of blue drama to the preset here. Or I could go and add a golden hour. If you notice this, I'm moving over it. If you see it about 2 or 3 seconds later, it's changing on the background. Can you see how the color's changing? But the only thing that's changing is the sky. It went out there. I'm sorry, said it again, Karen. The uh, the the algorithm looks at the image and finds the sky for me automatically, and then it rocks and rolls with it. So let's say I want to go with a sunrise. I click on it. It'll and if I move the slider left or right, it's going to either strengthen or lessen the effect of that preset on the sky. And again, it only works on the sky. There is nothing wrong with using all the other ones before that don't have the word adaptive in front of it. It's just you have to be just a little bit more. You have to click on this, and then you have to click on select subject, and it applies the effect for you right away that you're choosing from over here. It's just I won't say the old way. It's just it's not as automated in what it does for you. Whereas the adaptive ones really take a lot of the load off of you to go through and build the mask and everything. Any questions on presets? And again, let's say, for example, this one that we built for Jeff, I'm rolling the preset over this and it wants to fix it. If you want to add it to your favorites, all you do is just right click on it and then add it to your favorite. And then what it does, it'll push it up to the very top where your favorites are. So Jeff, at least for this evening, you were in the top 5 presets that I keep on my system.
Thank you. And these
Yeah.
adaptives and some basic ones are already built in. And then, of course, you can add other presets, like you said, create them or copy them or whatever.
I'm not sure how you build, what you do is you click on it and then you can add or subtract things to it
Right.
when you build the preset.
But these are supposed to already be in there, huh?
Yep, it's magic. It really, really is.
I'm just trying to find them in mine.
Um, have you updated your Lightroom in about 3 or 4 months? So
Yeah,
you
anytime it tells me to update my cloud, I do, but I may go back and manually do it again.
okay. So again, that's all under presets. If you've got a fairly newer version, you now have adaptive in there. This has probably happened the last 3 or 4 months. Um, but time in Lightroom for me, it could have been a year ago, but it hasn't been that long. So that's presets. Um, yeah, we covered everything that I'd like to cover in presets, but do you all have any questions? So Karen, here's one with that we took out at the sloths. If you notice, it does have a sky. So I'm going to go up to the adaptive, and I'm going to, if you look, see right here, it says sky, and I'm going to say, hey, I want to have it with dark drama. So all I do is click on it, and then it gives me the option of lighting or darkening. See how the color's changing behind there?
It can even add storm clouds.
I don't know. We can find out.
Hmm.
I'm not seeing any storm clouds. But here's what it does. If you click on the mask, this is all
hmm
talking to the mask. So it built the mask for the sky for you without having to click on the settings, without having to choose select sky and then run your thing. So it's doing all that for you in one step.
Right.
That's the advantage of the adaptive. And again, just Control Z will undo my last action. And that's how it works. There's another super duper areas all over here. Snapshots I never use. With a snapshot, what you can do is, Karen, let's say you're working on a quilting thing and you have an image, but you want to do a couple different versions of the image. You can take snapshots as you go through and changing your image. I've never done that because I use the virtual copies instead of, but it's there for you if you do want to do it. Again, that snapshots, never used it. And to
Pat,
take a snapshot, all you do is get to the place you want to be and then just click on the plus sign. History. This is
Hang on a second. To answer Jeff's question, go to Window, Panels, Presets, and it will open up the presets for you. Jeff, are you with me? Earth calling Jeff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you go to Window and then find the panel line, and then another menu will pop out, and if you turn on panel presets there, it will show up like Pat's is showing.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry, Pat.
Oh, no problem. Here's a wonderful thing. I love this beyond belief. Is if it's a great tool. If you notice, whenever we start out with the original image, we talked about the last couple of sessions that Lightroom never talks with your never never changes the original image. It's got a layer on top of it that's saving all these changes, all these edits that you're doing to it, and the history is the printout of what it's done to that image. So this is really cool. So if you notice, I click on the bottom, which is where it starts. And if you move up, you can actually see what the effect of all these different images are. So you can go back at any point in time, like the heel spot. If you notice before then, if you look right there on the left edge of the image, there's a little piece of metal sticking out underneath the walkway, right over here. But if I go up to that spot right there, if you notice it went away. And the reason it went away is because that's saying I used the spotting tool to go through and wipe it out off the image. And finally, Karen, there's your adaptive preset we ran called Dark Drama. So let's say, for example, this is the history, and I really want to say, I'm happy with the blacks, but I really don't care about keeping that. It's part of the image. I want to keep it. And the dark drama doesn't do enough drama for me. I want to take that out of my history. All you do is right click on the last step that you want to keep, and there's an option there to clear the history above this step, which I've used many, many, many a time to go through. So it just basically wiped everything out of that history and do it like that. Here's a great thing. Let's say, for example, well, let's do this. So I'm here at Sloss, and I've got history on this guy, and I want to apply this history to these images. All I have to do is go in here and just click on this and do the thing called an auto sync. This is where we do an auto sync. Okay. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to figure this out. If you do an auto sync, what it basically does is it copies your history and applies it to anything beyond there. Why this is doing it, I don't know. I really don't use this all that much. What I typically do is I do Shift Control C, which is copy. This gives me a good idea about what's happening here. I make sure that I select everything, but you can modify it so you don't and choose copy, and then I'll go back and I'll select these guys and do Shift Control V as in Victor and see how it just applied my history to these other two photos. So if I was on this one and I wanted to copy the history off of that one, I could click and apply it to these guys, Shift Control V. And that's how that works. So the history is valuable in that it records everything that you're doing, and you can copy that and you can apply it to some other thumbnails or images there. The only downside of this is it's pretty static. So if you're shooting a picture of a bird and the bird is moving, and you think you're going to apply the settings of that bird at this point onto the bird over here, it doesn't work like that. But if you have a static shot like that, it works just fine. Any questions on history? So what letter do I hit to jump back to the develop module?
D.
You got it. So now we're back home here, and I want to get back to the to where I got the collection of the images for this evening as we're kind of talking. So that we're kind of wrapping it up there. Okay. One thing I didn't mention about presets, let me kind of cover that. I've only purchased one, but you can actually go out to websites and get free presets, or people will sell it to you. There's one guy who did a lot of work with using a black preset to kind of create moody presets. So now I get to see what Hylos looks like with all these different presets applied. So you can go out and buy presets, and if you ever do it, typically there's instructions about where to keep them on your hard drive. so that they'll show up in Lightroom. It's really handy. Again, the reason I bought it was, and this is something for you guys to consider as well, is click on a preset and then go over here and see what the preset did to your image so that you can kind of learn how to get that kind of look and feel about it. And this one in particular, you got to drop down to the color mixer where you can see that he really jumped up the reds and he took the oranges as well. If you notice, he dropped all the other colors here, and, and they went mono, of course, and that's how it works. So watch what happens when I lower the reds there. Well, I guess happens to Hylas's face on the tablecloth. See how the red's dropping out of the colors? I'd have to drop the orange too to get it totally out. But that's how the color works in that situation. So a preset is nothing more than saying you click on me, I'm going to change all your settings over here this way. And that's all it does. But the real value is if you get some presets that you look and they say, hey, they're free, go and download some. But more importantly, see how they're working so that you can learn how to change the effect of that as well. Sorry, I forgot to mention that when we were doing presets. You can buy them or make them yourself. If you notice this evening, I'm using the panel called the collections panel. What the collections panel does is it basically, when you're back in the develop module, let me go back to a module. Let's say Gibbs Gardens. And there's this image here that I really, really like. And I want to add it to a collection. I can do that very easily. Um, right now within Lightroom, I've told Lightroom that I want this 2025 Lightroom Classic Sessions to be my default. So whenever I go up here and I come to an image that I really like and I want to add it to there, all I do is right click and you just add it to the target collection. So if I go to the target collection, you'll see at the very end, we've got this photograph. Now, let's say I right click on it and I want to remove it from the collection. It only removes the virtual copy that's kept in the collection. It does not, it, uh, it talks with the original, but if you remove this, it just removes it. It doesn't delete your original folder of photo. That kind of freaked me out and I got really nervous. I had to play around with it a lot before I finally accepted what they were doing. But that's what kind of happens when you use the collections. Lightroom has built a couple. For example, these 5-star, I never created this. So these are all the images that I have that are 5-star. Um, these are these are all the ones. I have a couple of video files in here. I didn't know I had these many. There are a couple of photos in here that I would like to save whenever I do a print. I just right click on it and I save it into this collection. So it's easier than going through all of my files trying to figure out which ones for prints. So when we do the wet competition here in a couple months, guess what I'm submitting? So it's already there. I don't have to go find it. Life is good. Colored red, we covered last time in the first two modules. If you take the time to go through and click on a photo and right click on it and change the color label, guess what? You can go over here into the Smart Collection. It's already built, and then you can pull out all the ones you've marked that are red. So that's happening there. Uh, Again, this one, the LRC sections, even though it's under Smart Collections, it's not really. Um, I built that. It just happens to be in that group. I don't know how it got stuck in there. Okay, filter bar. Within the develop module at the very bottom, not the very bottom, but in the center, on top of the film strip, is a thing we call the filter bar. So the filter bar does a couple of things, and it's kind of confusing at first. Remember a couple months ago, we were adding values, the number of stars to an image, and some folks were over here clicking on this, and it wasn't assigning a value to that number. There's a bar right here that you can basically hide, or that will keep all the values you can assign to that photo. The filter bar down here is basically saying, I want to see all the images that have a 2-star or greater than a 2-star. Or if you notice when I click on 4-star, it's saying Pat, you don't have any of that high. But there's other options here. You can click and see which ones have a pick flag. I don't use pick flags, so it won't show it. But it also shows which of the, unfortunately, all these guys all work together. So it's like an Umit was helping us with the search bar. You have to make sure all the things are turned on and off. So on this one, if we wanted to find out which of the files have any changes with an edit, guess what? It shows them all. And the reason being is whenever I import images into Lightroom, I ask for it to add a camera profile that is from the camera. It's supposed to be better. The Nikon guys are all kind of excited about it. Keeps the truer color of the Nikon images when you import the image. So these are all showing. So this is asking which one. Excuse me, got to turn it off. So this is saying there's only 2 images that have not been edited, and they're showing right there. So these are virtual copies, or copies that I've made into virtual copies that are there. So you can look and see all the ones that have a red border. And again, the only thing you got to be careful of, if something else is checked, like if it's greater than 4 stars and you click on red, it'll never show it. You've got to turn this off or work in conjunction with it to show all the ones that are red. So that's how the filter bar works. The film strip module has an awful lot of information. I'm going to make this a little bit larger so it's easier to see. If you come down to your film strip and look at the icons on the bottom right side, this is Lightroom talking to you, saying that these are things that have changed to the image you might want to be aware of. So the very first one, it says that I've done some develop adjustments to this first image. Unfortunately, this doesn't quite work right because when I imported the image, I assigned a profile for camera settings. So each of these that I've imported will say that it's been edited in some way. So it kind of loses its effectiveness a little bit. If you have a JPEG image with my iPhone, this is an iPhone photo. It'll say, hey, I've got GPS coordinates for this image. If you want to click on the map, I'll show you where the image is. And this one basically says that it has keywords. So remember back in the first 2 modules, we assigned some keywords to some of the modules. Well, this one has a keyword or 2 in it right there. If you look here are your stars. If you hit any picks right there, if you look, this has a red border around it. So this is saying this is a red colored thing. And in this case, this is saying there are 4 images that are stacked within this. So if I click on the number 4, it's going to expand it out. And we'll talk about this in a little bit. But with the number 4, this is saying I stacked these 4 images to get cut down on all the clutter on my screen. And to get them back, you click on any of those 4, just click on the words, and it just collapses them. It's a feature I really, really like, especially for showing you guys how all this stuff works. There were other features on there. Again, If you go to Victoria Bampton, I think she gives away for free the older versions of the Lightroom. It's called Quick Start, and she does an excellent job of explaining all the codes that are around here if you care about it. But the one thing I wanted to show to you is that if you just click on it, it's a great way of storing all images so it doesn't really clutter up your thing. It's a great feature for someone who does a lot of high-speed shooting like Umit with birds. Let's say he does a sequence of a shot. It may be 15, 30 images, however long, and he doesn't want to see them all at this one time. He wants to save it for later. He can go through and select all of those, right-click on any thumbnail, and choose to group them. So let me show you how that works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to here. I'm going to select all these images and I'm going to say stacking and I'm going to turn it off. So let's say Umit, this was a high-speed shoot for Umit. Or the fourth. Okay, so the fourth one's okay. It did a walk on me. So the fourth image is here. If I had 30 shots of a bird sequence and I wanted to stack them, all you do is highlight the first one, highlight the last one, right click, and just choose stacking. Group into stack. So there you go. See, I got the number 4. It's telling me the topmost image saying there's 4 in there. And to see them, you just click on it. Bing, bada, boom. There you go. Any questions on stacking? It's really kind of handy if you do a lot of high-speed shooting. Okay, the other feature that I've used here many, many a time to show you this stuff is a thing called virtual copies. And again, what virtual copy does, it looks at the original image, and over on the side, it creates an area for you to record all of your changes that you made on that virtual copy. And to do a virtual copy, all you do is right click on it and just choose create a virtual copy. Now, it's easy to tell once you get your eyes looking for it. If you notice down here in the bottom left-hand corner, see how the page is kind of curled up a little bit? Right down here in the corner? That's letting you know that's a virtual copy. If you move your cursor over it, if you look over here on this line, it'll say it's /copy1, /copy2, /copy whatever. So that's how it basically does it. I really don't need that copy in my collection, so I'm just going to take it out for now, and that's what all this is about. So I'm going to go back here, click on this. I'm just going to collapse it all. We talked about comparing images, and this is very, very handy. Let's say, for example, I was looking at this image of Mike, and there's 2 images in here. What I would do is block one of them, hit the letter C to compare. So it gives you the option of holding them up right next to each other. If you hold Shift Tab, and again, this will all be in the post notes, you can hide your film strip on the bottom. You can hide your 2 areas on the side, so you get a full screen. Once you're in compare, if the lock is down, whenever you click anywhere on the image to zoom in, it'll zoom it in on both of them. So you can kind of see what the impact of it all is. And you just click again, it'll zoom out. So that's compare. Don't want to spend a lot of time on it because we covered that before. And to get out of it, all you do is just click on the done button right here. Or you can hit the letter C again, whichever you prefer, and to wrap it up. Just to kind of quickly run through the panels on the side, you guys are kind of done to it. I'm just going to point out some things that you may have missed when you were going through it in the develop module. is that again, we've turned on the solo mode, so whenever I turn one on, any of the other ones are closed underneath it. Again, it's your choice to get to it. Just right click, choose solo mode if you like. Within the basic, we kind of talked about the sliders. I mean, you guys have done this. The only thing I use a lot when I want to sharpen an image is if I want to do an overall sharpening, and again, that's a global, uh, you would just use the presence down here. I like I like the texture sharpen. The clarity, Uma, you can probably say it better than me. Just basically splits the blacks blacker and the whites whiter to where you kind of lose the midtones in the center. And dehaze is perfect for foggy days or to make those blue skies even bluer. Vibrance, I think I said before, vibrance is saturation without the colors for the face. It kind of doesn't look at it, whereas saturation is basically all the colors everywhere, which leads us to the color mixer, which I really, really like.
So since you called my name, the dehaze slider is a very wide brush that you apply contrast. The clarity slider is a smaller brush, a medium-sized brush, and texture is a micro brush where you are applying contrast between very, nearby pixels. So it's applying to a very small area. It's trying to enhance the contrast between near segments to each other, while clarity goes for a larger area and dehaze goes essentially for the entire photograph to increase the contrast.
Thank you. Thank you, Hylos.
You're welcome.
I'm only going to talk about color mixer because I really like it. I don't use any of the other stuff. I'll let Umit talk about that during his stuff. But we tend, Lightroom gives you a lot of different options of going through and changing or modifying colors on your screen or in your selection. And the ones that I've been very happy with are is the color mixer. There are two choices here. I almost always use the mixer. It gives you an option of a point color to where you can you can actually go through and just pick a particular color to work on. Personally, I'm more for the global right now in this, but it gives you the options of hue. So if you look at the red, you'll kind of see that it's screaming to go to a different color. Saturation I use a lot. So and you know what? It gives you a great little tool here. If you click on right here, most of the tools with selections has a tool to where you can go through. It's a picker really is what it is. If you move it up, it saturates. If you move it down, it desaturates only that color. So again, there's other tools that you can widen the range, especially the luminance range. I love it with the selection tools. But for general talking everywhere in my image, you just kind of click anywhere and you can talk to whatever there. Now, let's say, for example, I've gone through and I've done all this stuff and I've kind of made things not quite like I like them. And I just want to say, oops, I didn't mean any of that. You can usually double click on the word right above that particular area you're working on. Or if it doesn't work there, you just keep going up a level and it will reset the sliders all at once. This is very handy. I don't remember in the old days, you had to move each one back separately. Oh, well now, bing, bada, boom, it's done here. So that's saturation. Luminance obviously is light bright. You can make a color in particular. For example, look at the reds, see how the reds are getting lighter on her blouse, getting darker. So it gives you a great choice of kind of isolating color. But if you want to get even better, click on there. But again, it's not super selective, but it's good enough for the work I do. There's another way of looking at this. It's the uh, Yeah, instead of looking at hue, saturation, and luminance, you can click on all, and then it groups the colors within that particular function. I prefer to do it this way, HSL, but you know, that's how it is. Um, oh man, I'm just going to hold off on color. You do it so much better than I, and I'm just going to kind of blow over it for this portion. Lens blur is kind of cool, but guess what? We have two options now. Um, the image I used was, oh, right here. So if I were to go back to my history, you will, this is kind of screwy because, yeah, here we go. So if you go back through here, you'll find I ran uh, a tool, a preset. I don't see it right now, to where I blew out the background. And the one way you can do it is here with lens blur. Uh, just a little bit of caution here, guys. This is a little bit more processor intensive than some of the other things Lightroom does. And even on my PC, it tends to take a little bit of time. But all you basically do is just click apply, and then it goes through and it analyzes the scene. It figures who is the subject, and then it applies to everything behind there. I'm some people love this, some people don't. I think it's a great application for a lot of times. Hylos, when we did the kicking back, there was a couple of scenes to where we were shooting against backstops and everything else, and I got to tell you, there's some of the backgrounds that were just flat as ugly, and this blur tool did a great job of blowing out. Well, let me do it this way, and I think this was one of them. Yeah, if you look at the background here, see how that's kind of nicely separated from the rest of the folks? This is the blur tool at work. And to demonstrate how it is agnostic as to whoever's using it, I'm going to go to Hylos here and go back to develop and go back to the blur tool. And again, it analyzes it, it figures the subject, and it's going to apply the blur tool to everything behind it. So if you look at the ambulance, you see how it's getting a little bit blurry. If I go the other way, see how it's not quite so. There's a boost tool right here that kind of helps makes the effects a little bit stronger as you kind of do it. So if you want to see what you're actually applying the blur tool, you can do a thing called visualize depth. If you notice Hylos is a certain color, that's basically saying everything within the square is not affected. And if I were to expand it out all the way out to the truck, you would find that the truck is, um, let me turn it off, turn it off. You'll find out that that's kind of the natural blur from my camera, but I basically turned off the visualizing the depth there. So kind of a nice thing about it. If you go to presets, presets with the adaptive has a blur background as well. So I'm just going to click on that guy. So it's detecting it and it just ran some stuff in the background and you can kind of play around with it right up here. So you can see, it's kind of hard to see. If you look at the handles on the ambulance door, this is maxed out. See when I loosen the effect, how it's a little bit more defined. Can you guys see that? Okay, I'm going to assume yes. So what it does is it does a pretty good job.
Yes.
And the magic behind it is it basically creates a mask. And then from there, it does what it does. Karen, if you notice, I didn't say it goes out too, so I'm listening to you. Uh, any
Thank
questions about
you.
the blur? There's some other effects you can do here. You can do the different kinds of, uh, but I find it's something most people maybe do once or twice. I just stick with the default and go with it, but maybe for Christmas tree lights and other things, you may want to go with the more kind of oxide look and stuff like that. But that's how it works. Any question on the lens blur? You have two options. You can do it here, or if you have the adaptive blur background, a new thing to Lightroom in the last release or two, you put the adaptive one, you can do the blur over here as well. I'm finding that the preset is a lot faster than the other one. There's probably a reason for that. I'm perfectly happy with using this adaptive one over here. Effects. I think the magic number I always use is -13 for a vignette. I believe I got that from Mr. Kilby. Um, but I'm starting to lean more to 19 as a number. But you know what? It depends on the photo, and some photos don't need a vignette. So Hylos, I'm sorry, buddy, you're going to be without a vignette. But if we go here to the ladies that we were looking at before, I don't know. I lost them there and there somewhere. I'll just pick somebody.
Does he
This
still have his
one,
garter, Pat?
say again?
You didn't take his garter now, did you? That wouldn't be fair. Sorry,
No.
Hylos. Just I'm about half asleep. I wanted to wake myself up. It's a good
Yeah.
session, Pat. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. If you go to the left, it goes black. If you go to the right, you kind of get a nice little white one. I found the white one to be great when you're doing seashells and something like that. It just goes very, very well with the sea. But typically, for any pictures we do for the club, uh, I do it the most -13. And again, each photo is different. You can move it around to the midpoint. You can do all kinds of things. Just have fun and go with it. I'm just trying to give you an idea that there's a function here. Transform, this is super. I just love transform. Now I'm going to abuse it here, but you'll see why. If you just click on auto and it tried to go through and straighten everything. If you look at this, we've got lines running every which way, and there's no way in hell that I would expect this thing ever to figure it out. But what you can do, you can go and use a guided. Now, this is going to show you how crazy good this is, but this is not a good subject. We'll get another one in a minute. So it's basically truing up based on the guided lines that I drew. Unfortunately, it screwed up everything else. So let's go pick a better photo. I think there's one of a kangaroo thing or something here. Or let's say this one. Let's say that you wanted to true it to the edge of the things that looks pretty good, but you wanted to true it to something else, like the border here. Uh, if you have to lay down a couple of points for it to go to, and then it'll work. But I'm finding for a lot of things, the auto works exceptionally well. If you notice right there, see how it cleaned up that range right there? But like anything else, let me show you one other thing. Back in the basic module with the crop tool, it's got a great tool here to show you the angle as well. So you can go through and, come on, guys. With the angle tool, you can go through and true it to anything else like the fence. I'm just trying to let you know here that the crop tool has got basically the same functionality. Um, it's a little bit off because it shows the full screen whenever you use the tool, and quite honestly, I'm going to control Alt Z because I could kind of work it just fine. Okay, let's say we wanted to true it to this back line here. You could just hold down angle and click here, drag it over to here. And guess what I did before I published this? I did this for you. So it's already been trued up. But a great tool in crop is right here. If you have one straight line that you want to work with, this is the perfect place to go. But if it gets a little bit crazy and you want to say, for example, that you're shooting a door and the door is a little bit of an angle this way and this way, if you draw the guided lines along both of the edges, it'll just suddenly pop to where the door will be perpendicular to each other. It's really a handy tool. And that's down here in transform. I find that it's remember the other night Boris was talking for those of you who were at the competition or on Zoom, Boris was talking about if I shot it from a little bit of a different angle, it may be a little bit better. Well, under this tool, if you go into horizontal, you can kind of rotate the image just a little bit if you do want to play with that way. But if this is something that cranks your engine, transform is the way to straighten lines for you, but it also kind of trues things this way and also this way. And that's just how it goes. Um, Color grading, Omid, you do a great job on this. I'm not even going to pretend to understand it. I'll wait for your class
I,
tomorrow.
I think that's your next month when you do it, advanced editing.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not touching it. And here's something else that's an Umit function. I never use this. So Umit, are you going to explain curves with either?
Yeah, I did explain it last time, and I will explain it this time again.
Okay, thank you. It's just not my thing.
And we all have our own little ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And I will never touch, not never, but I rarely touch presets, and I'm always on curves. So Pat is the other way around.
Yeah, we're all just a little bit different.
Yep. And everything is correct. Not one way is not the right way.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Lens
Of course,
correction.
my way is always the better way, but
Lens correction, with how my lenses are set up, I never have to use this because Nikon lenses talk to this and Lightroom understands and it does whatever it needs to do these corrections. So I don't have to deal with it. Just to let you know it's here for your camera. I find this is really handy for iPhone photos, though. It really helps it if things just don't look quite right. The problem with Apple is you come here to try and find your phone. It's like there's like 100 zillion things here. So if you want to find your camera, you have to come here and click on it to get the benefit of the profile corrections. I really, rarely use it. This last one, this is another UMIT. I will not talk about it. It's called calibration. I've watched a couple of YouTube videos on it. It sounds very interesting, and I look forward to your discussion, Umit.
yeah, I'm not going to talk about much on that either because I rarely use it because you can do most of the functions that you have here in that panel other places.
Yeah. Are there any questions about the general layout? What I'd like to do is if we just take about a 5-minute break, I'll take another 15 minutes and maybe run through a photo or two that's down here. And the rest of the photos we'll cover next month. So there's no pressure to get through all this stuff. I've learned I need to back off and give you guys health breaks. Me too. And if it's hi, Louis, if it's okay, we'll start up again in 5 minutes.
It's okay. I'm gonna pause it now.
Indoor and outdoors. How come he's sideways?
Hi, Louis, I may have to restart the share. It seemed to hiccup or something.
This guy's chewing up something. Oops.
Hi, Louis, I'm gonna worry about you. What is it doing?
Yes, he's up.
Okay, he's up. Okay, so on, why is it? Oh, yeah.
The slosh field thing is at 90 degrees to what it should be also.
Yeah, as I saw that boy. So earlier I explained to y'all, looking at the history, that I was able to go and show you how I used a preset and also any a preset within Adobe. I like a BW06. It has a nice feel for my Karen, never let your cat walk across your keyboard while you're doing instruction. I just figured that out. So so I'm looking at history. If you notice, I cropped it and I did some stuff. And over here, when I did a virtual copy, again, it's got the upturned corner right here, the lower left-hand corner. I used the preset BW06. And if you move up, you can see the effect of the different changes I made. And I showed you guys how you could right click and knock anything out above that out. So here's an example of I shot that this morning. Just it's just a springtime shot of the flower, and then I did a virtual copy, and then I did some stuff to it, obviously cropped. But the beauty here, guys, that I want to share with you is the history documents everything that I did from the time that I made a virtual copy. You can see I cropped it about 100 different ways. And then I ran some uh, presets over there to adjust it. And then I was doing some fine tuning with the brushes. And then I went into the color picker. That's what this is right here. And I adjusted the colors. So I kicked the purples and the reds just a little bit in the photograph. I did some help with the blacks and whites here. And I also went through and did some texture with a mask tool. I used a brush, a real little brush, and I just went over the edge where the little hairs are right here. Not hairs, but cilia or whatever they're called, right here on the photograph. So that's basically how I edited the photograph. What I will do to you is I'll include both shots in the post session, and I'll give you a shot of the history or part of it to help you kind of figure and appreciate how to do these things. So here's a picture back in the old days when I had a DSLR. Um, this is now my nephew, and this is the original shot, and here is the final shot. So I can't tell you the number of times I've gone to Photoshop and I've looked at an image and I wondered how the heck did I ever get to the point that I did? Well, within Lightroom, you go to your history and it's all right here. Everything I did to this photograph to go from here to here. So what I basically did was I went through and I selected the subject and I used the pop and I added this to Mike and kicked him a bit. And if you notice, there's a red thing on there that's basically telling me it's going white with the clipping indicator. I'll turn it off. And then I also did another mask to where I went and I toned down the stained glass window so it wasn't so much in your face. So just let you know that Lightroom really is a great tool to go from this to this. I was able to correct the white balance and everything else. Quick note for you. If you're in the library and you import a video, guess what? You can play a video. What I do was I've noticed I got a boatload of videos in my Lightroom. It's just over the years I've kept them in here. And so here's Joy with some of the other friends that were celebrating 50 years of her Women's Alliance group back in Atlanta that they did back then. But the nice thing is I can keep my video in the same thing. So when Joy's mother died, I shot a lot of still shots, but I also recorded some video and I included the video in there. So everything is in the same folder on my PC. So I don't have to go looking for it like crazy. Here's one, Samuelson, Henry's. There's a couple of us went out to Marietta Square, as you can tell, and we were walking around, and we always ask the parents first if we can shoot photographs of their kids. So here's the picture as it started out with my iPhone, and here is the picture that I wanted this one to be higher key just because I felt if I dropped it down, it kind of lost the effect of the blonde hair, but I had to tone down the background a little bit. So if I ever wonder about how I did this shot, then I would just go under the history in my develop module. Let's get back here. And this is basically everything I did. So if, again, you notice I'm starting here. And as I move my cursor up, you can see the subtle changes that I'm doing to the photo. Can you see how it's changing? So it's saying up everything cumulative from the first up until red saturation shift. This is what it looks like. And this is what it looks like after I applied, oh, here's the one, applying lens blur from the right side. Remember I was fooling around with this image and I turned off lens blur? So I'm gonna turn it back on. And that's how that works. Again, I'm just showing you a couple and giving you some idea. This series right now is just to basically tell you a story of how using your iPhone is the best camera, depending on where you are. A couple weeks ago, I started coughing like crazy. I went in to talk to my doc about bumping up the allergy medicine. And as I'm standing there waiting for him, I'm looking at the slanted light coming into the room. Well, the PA came in first, and I said, "Wow, great light. Are you going to be there long?" She said, "No, I'm almost done." So she walked out the door, and I dropped the iPhone down a little bit, took a shot this way, so I could capture all of the motion, uh, the full effect of the slanted thing. And then I went in. Here's transform at work. If you So what I did on this one, see, here's the horizontal perspective in transform that I used. You can see it kind of jerking just a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see it on your end, but it's moving just a little bit as I tried to figure out what was the best perspective and making this guy line up. So I had a parallel top and a vertical line on the side as well. It was just a little bit of fine tuning to kind of get it that far. And then I kicked it up into Photoshop just to see what I could do there. And I was just playing around with it. And so I fooled around with the black and whites again, the contrast, and this is what I got there. And again, all this is recorded on the side. And then I left that image in Photoshop. It's not this. So this is going back to the JPEG. So it should be right there. So within Lightroom, if you go and click on the photo, this is not in any menu. You have to go up to the top, click on photo. That's how you flip things vertical. Now, the reason I took it up into Photoshop, I tried to use the remove tool in Lightroom, and I still find it's still lacking from the Photoshop one. So if you notice here in this photo, there's a big circle right here, which is where the PA left her chair, and I wasn't smart enough to pick up on it when I took the photo. So I brought it into Lightroom here, and I basically used Lightroom before I flipped it, and I knocked out that circle that was right there. And then fooling around with the color shift within Lightroom, within the color picker, I clicked on an area and I adjusted the luminance range. That was the shadows and the blacks, and I kicked it to the red or the red end. And what I'm just trying to show you is you can have a lot of fun with just playing around with your images. And please just kind of think beyond just trying to make it look photographically correct. If you have something that's even a halfway a little bit graphical, just have some fun with it. Yeah, it took me about an hour screwing around with these things, but it was fun. I learned something from it, and you can do it as well. I'm seeing we're coming up on 9. I don't want to take any more of your time. We can do the rest the next time and answer any questions that you may have. But I'd like to extend an offer to you. If you have a photo that you're having a rough time make work or it's just not quite looking right, if you'd like, we can call this a dynamic duo effort. We can take the image, I'll fool with it in Lightroom, and if it's okay with you, I'll share it with Umit and let him see what he can correct it in Photoshop. And the next time we meet in our two respective Zooms, we can kind of show you how things worked out. So if you're interested, you have a problem image, please don't send me something that's totally crazy. But if it's just not quite right and you need a little fixing, just email it to me and we'll see what we can do. Does anyone have any questions about what we've covered so far?
I might ask how large an image you wanted to get.
How what now?
Well, if we sent you an image to look at, how large, what should be the dimensions of the image?
Um, I'm glad you brought that up because we need to talk about it. If you click on an image, really, I was going to wait until the later photographs. But in case you don't know it, if it's a raw file, and Martin, it's only a raw file, uh, but I've got Topaz, so I can work with it as well. There is a great feature within Lightroom. It's been added in the last 6-8 months. It's enhanced, and they've added two things. One is denoise. We're going to save that for next time. But there's a thing called super resolution. So this is so if you were to send me a wonky, let's say 12 meg file, and I needed just a little bit more resolution, I would bring it in here or Topaz and bump it up. Again, in Lightroom, it has to be a raw file. But if you have an old JPEG, I can use Topaz and bump it up that way. But I just wanted to let you know this is a great thing within the develop module. So Martin, just shoot it to me. The worst I can say is, oh my God, I can't do anything.
If I may say, if you can save your raw file as a DNG file and you can drop the resolution down to 2500 on the long side, that will be great. that way the DNG doesn't lose the raw properties like JPEG does, but you can, reduce the file size.
Martin, why am I thinking there's a train in that photograph?
You are muted.
You're muted.
He's smiling, so he's been busted. Well, everyone, hi, Los, anything for the group?
Not from me. We on for tomorrow night?
Yeah, buddy. Umid, are we on?
Yes, sir, we are on.
Yeah, buddy. I'll see you then.
Yep.